Happy Friday afternoon and welcome to another MSP Cyber Roundtable. We're excited to be joined by Robert. I'm going to butcher your last name, so I'm not even going to try. Robert from Appgate, Eric Pipkin from KPInterface, and we've got a special guest that didn't get on the video creds, Mark Enderhees, who is awesome. If you've ever been, he's at all of the events, so I'm sure many of our guests have seen him and enjoy his presence as well. So we're going to have a great conversation today about zero trust in the private cloud. We're going to have a little bit of a hero's tale, and Matt started a story right at the 2:30 mark, which means he gets to do it in front of the whole class. So
I was not watching the clock. That's typical for me.
2-minute warning.
Yeah, we were talking about the cool kids club outside, which was the smoking area, like 20 years ago.
We were talking about these days, those indoor cigarettes.
These days, my kids are like, yeah, we don't know one smoker, They don't know one. High school kids. But I'm like, do you guys know any vapors? And they're like, oh, yeah, everyone vapes. So
I don't know. I know Matt wasn't going to say this, and it's a terrible joke, but when he said, you don't know, I thought he was going to say, or I imagined him saying, you don't know one cool kid, but it's just a bad joke. Obviously, that's not the case.
No, they don't really drink anymore. They don't really smoke anymore. They just stay home and play on their iPhones.
Yeah.
All right. What are we here for today?
Not that. Gentlemen, we would love a brief introduction from each of you just before we get the call fully kicked off. Thank you for entertaining or goofing us. Robert, why don't you start it off, man?
Sure. I'm Robert Ungemach. I work with. I'm the global manager for channel sales engineering with Appgate. This is actually my first SE gig. On the sales side, I've got an extensive I've been around since before VPNs were created, which is kind of scary. But I've seen a lot of things. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army. I'm an Intel analyst. I had a foreign language trailer. That was my troubleshooting skills for years, and just grew up started on a support desk when we were still doing dial-up circuits for exchanging information. It's pretty wild. I've seen everything, the distribution of Windows and stuff. There's a lot of different things. And so throughout my career, I've landed here and I love what I'm doing. It all built up to working in cyber, and I absolutely love what I do. I've had extensive gigs for almost 15 years in MSPs. So a lot of different things in the background. Love what I do, helping people understand what the changes and what's going on in the market and how to make themselves better.
That's awesome. I appreciate that. What's been the most complex problem that you've been tasked with dealing with, or helping a team deal with?
And don't say working.
I think I just say working with Mark. No, Mark's been great to work with. Honestly, kicking off this MSP program, it's been complex. Our company is an enterprise focused, and they've got a cool product. And Mark took the initiative to identify how we could take and bring that out to the field. It's been very successful in the market in the MSP space, and it's just really connected because it's different than everything else that's out there. And it's enterprise grade. So we've been around for 17 years. It's been solid, but adapting that and going back to that MSP mindset personally, that's been my biggest challenge. I've been in the enterprise market for a while, and now going back and working with MSPs, I love it. But that shift back, I can remember things are a little bit different. A lot more constrained, a lot more tight.
What's your favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni, hands down.
Appreciate it. Eric, you want to go?
Yeah, Eric Pipkin. I'm the director of technology at KPInterface. I've been working for the company for 14 years, and it's been quite a ride. We we help out small, medium businesses, and if you're going to ask about the most complex situation I have to deal with, it's probably choosing technologies that help us and our clients and trying to avoid that overlap with the technologies. That's probably the toughest thing.
What's your dream concert?
Oh, dream concert. Oh, man. You know what? I've been to both of these, but I would have loved to go to the Billy Joel Elton John combination concert. I've been to them separately, which was awesome in itself, but that would be a dream concert for me.
Robert, I should ask you that as well because you got excited by the question.
Actually, I think
is there anything you've missed?
yeah.
I'm sorry. You've seen a lot of things. Is there anything you've missed?
Who for me? I would love to go back. I saw here in Dallas, we've got the what's the name of the hall over at SMU. There's a really tight, intimate concert venue at SMU. I think it holds about 200 people, 300 people, and I got to see Annie Lennox. It was the most incredible concert I've ever been in because it was so up close and personal. But I saw Rush's first outdoor concert, so I've seen a lot of different things. But her concert was just so incredible. And her music just
awesome,
outstanding. So I'd love to go to that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Mark, take the stage, man. Tell us about yourself.
Hey guys, Mark Interhees. I'm based in the DFW along with Robert. I've been with Appgate for a couple of years. I came over to build the MSP route to market and having a great time doing that. So been in this space for quite a while. Started out, working for VAR, moved to an early MSP back before people were really speaking about MSPs in the early 2000s. Spent a lot of time at Cisco, and then again, I've been here for a couple of years.
Favorite pizza topping?
All the above. Meat lovers.
Okay. Meat lovers is good, man. Meat lovers is good. Favorite concert, or like if you could go to a concert that you haven't been to yet?
That I haven't been to yet, man. I really like Chris Stapleton.
Yeah, there you go.
I'd love to see him in concert.
Awesome. Well, we've got everybody introduced. Matt, should we jump into a control, or is there anything we missed?
I'm super excited. And I don't know how excited I should be, but we're doing a new control framework today. So
all right,
here it is.
Well, tell us more about it.
Look at that wheel animates. I like
that. I wasn't expecting that at all. Looks great.
So we're here in NIST CSF 2.0 today. Now, we're here in January of 2024, and 2.0 is not in final form yet. However, the draft came out a few months ago. We're not expecting major changes, and at the depth we are communicating today, this should all be accurate for the final draft, which is due out later this year. Now, NIST CSF came out almost a decade ago, or around a decade ago, and it's most popular in actually state governments. So it's a federal standard, not really used in the federal government. They've got NIST 853 and NIST 171 that they're focused on. However, its purpose was to create a simpler, easier to use framework for organizations that are getting started in security. Unlike NIST 853, which has something like 500 controls, we've got a control framework in NIST CSF, which is about the same complexity as CIS Controls 18, if anyone's familiar with that, under 200 controls. But also, and this is one of the great things about NIST CSF, it maps out to many other control standards like CIS, like NIST 853, like COBIT, ISO 27K. So if you're using any of those other standards, you can speak the NIST CSF language. Now, as it is about ready to have an update here in 2024, it's going to be very popular. And again, if you're doing any business with state governments, you really have no choice but to consume this standard. So big change for NIST CSF 2 is that they've added a new category, govern. So NIST takes the over 100 subcategories of security interventions. They break them up into categories, with the idea being as an enterprise or an organization that's trying to protect yourself, to create a comprehensive security program, you need to take controls or safeguards from each of these categories and string them together into a functioning security program. If you miss one of these categories, your security program will have a giant gaping hole in it, and it will not function to protect you from attacks. So they recommend that you customize your security framework based on your own depth of security needs. but today we're just going to talk about those higher level categories. So we're here in the
Hey, Matt.
protect category.
Before we
Questions before I dive in?
I would love to throw one at you, as you know I like to. So we're diving into a new framework. CIS 18 is different from NIST CSF. What types of differences should we expect? I know that as we went through the CIS 18 controls, a lot of them were pretty concrete, things to be done. What should we expect from these? Or from this
So one big difference is that unlike CIS controls, which is a framework built to stop cyber attacks, NIST CSF is a comprehensive framework. Now that it's, I'm not sure. I'm hearing there's some audio challenges here, so I'm gonna take a quick look. How's that, guys? That any
Give
better?
us a test really quickly.
Test 1 2.
That's better so far.
Okay. Yeah, there's actually an air compressor in the background. I'm sure that's what you were hearing. So, I know you might think all security standards are supposed to stop attacks, but CIS controls, just as a contrast point, is built to stop 95% of attacks. Okay. The idea being for 20% of the effort of a complete comprehensive security program, you can stop 80% of the attacks. And CIS controls is actually built to stop 95% of attacks. Now, what that means is there's a whole lot of security they're leaving out to stop that residual attack surface or that residual risk. CIS doesn't try to do that. NIST CSF 2.0 tries to cover every angle. So one of the big things that's missing from CIS is there's no governance. There's very little from the perspective of policy. There's very little from the perspective of procedures. There is absolutely zero risk management in CIS controls. Whereas over here in NIST CSF, not only are you going to have all of that, but you're also going to have controls that are a little less technical, things that protect you from people risk. So, if you really want to have a fully comprehensive security program, you need to go beyond CIS, and that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Thanks.
So, in the protect category, we've got in the protect function, we've got categories. The first one is identity management, authentication, access control. It's all the things that you need to be doing as an organization to limit access to authorized users for your protection of assets. And there's 6 subcategories here. We're not going to go through the details, but I'm going to go on to the next subcategory here, which is identity management. That is a control category that was in the old version of NIST CSF. It's actually been sort of moved around to some other categories here. Awareness and training. CIS has some of these things, but what NIST is really focused on is making sure that people are aware of security risks, making sure that they perform the behaviors that are required to not create undue risk, but also make sure that they're trained in their own jobs because, even if someone knows how to use all of their technology, if they don't know how to perform their own job, they can create a human risk if part of their job is, making sure the right people are doing the right thing. We've got the data security category here. These are things like at-rest encryption to protect against confidentiality loss, integrity problems. We've got data lifecycle policies, making sure backups are created and maintained. And then we've got the PR.IP category. Now, this one, it's all about processes and procedures that's been moved into governance, so we're not going to be covering it today.
I can't wait for that one. I'm going to be licking my chops.
On the second page, we've got another one that was dropped and moved, another one that was moved. Platform security. So When we're talking about platform security, we're mostly talking about configuration management. We're making sure that your devices, your assets, your software, your operating systems are all configured in ways that are secure, that you have a standardized way to make sure that those secure configurations are applied consistently. If those configurations drift, making sure that they come back into alignment, or making sure that if they drift, you can detect when they drift. But also making sure that your hardware is maintained and cycled out when appropriate. Also, as part of secure configurations, we want to make sure we're monitoring logs from those operating systems, software, hardware, etc., and making sure that systems are configured so that they're not running unauthorized software. In the infrastructure resilience category, which is the last one we're going to cover today, we've got network access controls, making sure you're protected from physical threats like flooding, fire, wind. That's the kind of thing, by the way, that CIS doesn't cover at all. Making sure you have physical security in your facility. Also, making sure that your entire overall system is built in a resilient manner. So
I've got a question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think insurers are going to care if you have?
I think insurers are going to care an awful lot about this standard. Yeah, I think you're going to see anyone that does business with the state government is going to have to come up to speed here. Anyone that works in a local or municipal government is going to have to come up to speed here. I think we are going to see insurers increasingly reference NIST CSF the way they do now, although they've stopped in the last couple of years because there's newer, better standards. Insurers love government standards, particularly because if things end up in court, judges like government standards. So, and arbitrators. So, yeah, you're going to see insurers pushing this. Also, in this last category, making sure, and I just mentioned it, making sure things are resilient. So we're talking about making sure that there's load balancers where there needs to be, making sure that there's fault tolerance systems where there needs to be. NIST CSF is much more concerned with the overall system and how it functions rather than very specific assets. So that's it for this protect function. We'll cover some of the others in upcoming calls. Does anyone want to tell a NIST CSF story or want to chime in any of these technical categories before we leave? All right. But all right. Eric, you sound like you got something.
Yeah, I mean, I could certainly speak to the protect function for sure. I think, especially with regard to zero trust, it's a lot of our clients and ourselves. We've been moving away from local domains. Our clients have as well, and so going to using Enter ID or Intune and having a complete remote workforce, and so that presents an issue where you don't have that physical barrier anymore. And also, all of our clients, we have exactly 0 on-site Exchange servers. So that also presents an issue because now you can log in from any computer, any device to your email or your any 365 app, and it will allow it. So I think Zero Trust really helped us control this aspect of logging into these types of services. The combination of Zero Trust and Microsoft's conditional access policies has really helped us mitigate the very common issue of where, let's say, a threat actor gets control of credentials for any user, and now they can log in from anywhere with those credentials. Well, with a Zero Trust platform in place, properly configured with conditional access policies, now they're going to see you cannot access that from here, wherever they are, because we have certain restrictions in place, like it has to be a domain computer or it has to be coming from exactly this IP. So that has been huge for us over the last year and our clients. To be able to protect these SaaS solutions is just enormous, especially since everyone's heading towards these types of environments.
You're muted.
Matt, you're muted.
clean transition until I came along on moving into zero trust from NIST CSF. But so I think if we just zoom out a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about our problem space, right? So zero trust from a philosophy perspective has been around about 5 years now. I think it took a few years for people to be informed, for products to come up to speed. And now it's very simple, right? To stick gateways in front of cloud products, right? With products like Okta, right? We can put gateways in front of all those cloud products. A lot of them have that stuff built in. But in high security environments or custom business applications, we still have these non-cloud applications, these non-SaaS applications that really, they're not going anywhere anytime soon, right? They're going to be with us for the long haul, and they need to be protected. And in the most secure environments, we don't touch, we sometimes don't touch SaaS. We sometimes don't touch, those publicly hosted applications where, maybe there's not enough FedRAMP support, right, on the hosting facility. Maybe it's not, maybe the data residency is not right? So, or maybe it's a sophisticated custom business application that just simply won't run in a cloud, right? Or from a cost perspective would be too expensive in the cloud, right? So all those things still exist, but we need to bring them into the zero trust era, right? So what are the problems that people are seeing? What are the new problems that have been introduced now that we have this zero trust world? Would be a great place that I would love to start. So I don't know if anyone's have you guys run across situations where we have
a lot of it's we see, legacy platforms is a huge Achilles heel, and they're going to be around. If you think about the start of the pandemic, when they were trying to change the calculations on unemployment dispensation, they couldn't find programmers to make the modifications. And these platforms are tried and true. Finding something that will work, even just to solve a two-factor requirement in front of these platforms, and staying with a comply to connect philosophy behind it is a challenge for a lot of customers. And Eric, we've run into several different customers and customers of our MSPs that have those issues that they need to solve. And getting in front of that is just equally as challenging for those MSPs on those legacy platforms, because there's still AS400s out there running. There's RS6000s out there running, huge platforms, and it often gets overlooked when it comes to zero trust for what they do.
Just to put everyone in the space, we have to remember here that the reason why we care about zero trust is people aren't breaking in through the firewalls anymore necessarily. They're breaking in through the identities, right? And they're abusing legitimate credentials to do illegitimate things. That is the primary attack mode these days. Other things are happening, right? Other things need to be addressed. And sometimes that identity vulnerability or identity threat is in line in an attack chain with more technical things, right? So, eliminating vulnerabilities is still something we have to do. We still need to scan for problems. We still need to do all the configuration stuff. But the reality is identity is sort of in the Wild West space right now, right? And these legacy applications were not built with cloud authentication from the beginning, right? So although some of them are, right? So I repeated it earlier, right? So we have these private cloud applications that are either there because they were always there, right? Or they're there because we need that maximum level of isolation, right? So even new applications have that issue. This is not only a legacy problem.
Correct.
So if lacking some kind of new solution, what do we end up with? We ended up with split directories where oh great, we've secured Office 365, right? And our SharePoint is under 8 types of hygiene controls, right? But but then we've got the mainframe app that what is it? I don't know, behind a VPN, and you're just connecting in, and maybe you've got multi-factor auth even, right? But some people can leverage that connection to break in. I mean, I've been trying to get people away from VPNs for many years, because so what if you've got that VPN with multi-factor auth? If the attacker's on your machine, guess what they're doing when you're logged onto the VPN, So
Exactly.
yeah. So when we want to get to that zero trust route, like what do we need to do? Like from a process perspective, we need to, other than like
Well, let
clearly
him
like,
answer,
something needs to
Matt.
get at it.
Let him answer. Let him answer.
Process, you mean in terms of people?
Well, what does the world change look like, right? Like things, it was VPN before. What happens? What needs to happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the best things about the Zero Trust platform is the customization that it can present, and part of that is replacing VPNs. And so, in your scenario you were just mentioning, like it's possible that a client's using multiple types of remote connections, and you can replace all of that with just this Zero Trust platform, which not only makes it more secure, but it also makes it easier for the users, I think. So you're really solving a couple issues, that convenience and security, which is huge, because you really need to balance that in the long run. So it just makes the entire environment simpler, which is also a goal.
That's important to note. So you're saying, with some kind of zero trust gateway, some of these VPN technologies, these alternate remote access I mean, it's worth noting there's a whole class of people that never used VPN ever, because until COVID they didn't work remote, and now they're working remote, right? They used to work in the office, and VPN's hard to train people on, right?
Oh my God!
Here's how you turn it on. Here's how you turn it off. Here's how you know you're on the VPN. Here's like you can't watch Netflix on the VPN. Like whatever the requirements are. Hey, did you know your traffic when your VPN's on is all going through the company, and we're going to read it? Like you have to go through all those things, right? When you put these private apps behind a zero trust infrastructure, I guess they act like SaaS, right? Which is what people are familiar with, right? They sit down at the computer, they log in, stuff just works wherever they are. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's
right. Zero trust location doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for the user. It doesn't matter for the resource you're connecting to in this world that we are living today. I mean, resources, they're everywhere, Eric. I mean, you've been wrangling that now for quite a while.
Yeah, that's right. And the user doesn't care where it resides, but it matters so much on the technology side. So the fact that you could just protect all of these applications with gateways, then now we're talking like a much simpler network for the users to access, and easily secured, because you have one portal to access to see everything, and everything's protected behind these gateways. So it makes things a lot easier, no matter the environment.
You said it doesn't matter where they are, right? But you can actually make that a criteria in a zero trust config. I mean, there's this concept of impossible logins, right? Does anyone know what an impossible login is? This is just like Superman jargon. Does anyone want someone share what an impossible login is?
So I'm in Philadelphia, and 4 hours, or actually 1 hour later, maybe I'm in India. Now,
right. You'd have to take a rocket to get to India that fast, right?
Correct. Yeah, we call it Superman. Yep.
Yeah. So we know that that's impossible. And that's something that zero trust can address, right? And it's also like a real problem space, that's if you have unauthorized individuals, they're probably not on the same, connection as you, right? And it's unlikely that they're in the same city as you. And it's an easy way to just see, like, separate the attackers from the authorized individuals, right?
Yeah.
What else? What other kind of controls do you guys imagine like are pretty common in these zero trust environments? So we got like the impossible login scenario, which is like one of those technically interesting problems. But what about like a less technical one?
Well, I mean, I mentioned earlier about domain computer. So, in our environment, for example, I can't log in from my personal computer to any 365 app or any app that we use. And so that's a control, pretty simple, but very effective. it has to be a domain computer. And to take it further, you can really set up more parameters than that, right? It has to have an updated version of CrowdStrike. It has to have whatever, any kind of antivirus or any kind of maybe a Windows updates that has to have certain version. So those are certainly some criteria that you can make sure that you have to match in order to even log in to a zero trust platform.
Yeah, I like the patching controls because in some environments, people just want to delay on that stuff, right? Well, they'll have to do it when they want to get to their email, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is important because, while you can utilize zero trust to really mitigate all of the attacks coming from other devices, like you had mentioned, if the threat actor gets a hold of your device, now they're inside. And so we need to make sure, that's really why you want to make sure everything's patched, and really to try to prevent that as much as possible, because now that becomes still a threat. I mean, zero trust really, to me, is protecting the perimeter. But once they're inside, then that's some. Well, and Robert and I have discussed this as well, is where we can kind of maybe set up some sort of detection there where it kills the connection. That's next level.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. So.
And that's good too, because companies just don't own one platform. When you make investments in security tools and control platforms, you quite often have a pretty hefty investment. And being able to integrate what I like to call additional sources of truth, being able to intercommunicate with other platforms or receive signals from other platforms and let them automatically flow into control for user data access is equally important. Not everybody, I never put all my eggs in one basket. I just don't. I always trust when I get multiple sources of information. And so that, I think, has really helped accelerate some things for some the partners that we're working with, and being able to bring these tool sets together, use them, and allow automation to solve some of the problems too, and speed up the reaction time, because we all know, milliseconds are important. Controlling that blast radius when something happens is very important, and having a tool set to be able to do that is good. Eric, you've leveraged quite a bit of that.
Yep. You guys mentioned, and I brought up the story of like protecting people when they're not in the office, right? But this isn't just when they're not in the office, right? This is like, ideally, you protect your applications with zero trust wherever the user is.
Yep.
You don't trust any location.
Yeah. Truly zero trust. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, segmentation is great. Segmentation becomes much easier if you have a zero trust application. Now you don't have to really use the firewall to create these rules, and you can just block everything and then allow
it can make network topology cleaner, right? If you just say, you know what, everyone can access the internet, and I don't trust any of their machines ever, and I don't trust the LAN ever, and they're going to be treated the same whether they're in the office or outside the office, right? I don't trust them.
Exactly.
Until you do.
Correct.
Right? Until you do.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Oh, think of all the small businesses out there that, they've been built out. They've been sitting on a single flat network at their location. They've never had any segmentation. They got file servers on the same subnet and everything else. It gets really messy. And that the two things I always see for a first step is, doing some basic separation there. And then also, man, you were talking about identity and access management. There's a lot of times there's tech debt in those directories and those policies and those roles. And I've seen delays on things that actually impact that because they haven't done a good cleanup, or they've been using Henry for the last 5 years because he's got the policy that makes everybody's work. And there's areas in there that always are very foundational. I'm glad you brought that up in the beginning. That's a huge piece of zero trust.
Tell us a little bit about what it's like for the users to get connected into the apps.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I think that one thing that makes it easy, and this depends on the zero trust application you're using, but you can set up SSO, SAML, so that You can connect it to their 365 as an enterprise app. And therefore, when they click to connect into the client, they're used to seeing this Microsoft, login screen, and it's their credentials that they're used to. And then you can apply what kind of MFA you want there to keep it secure. So, it's really easy for them. I mean, and some VPNs may offer this, some may not. Sometimes they'll have their own sort of login for that. Now most of them can be synchronized, but still, this is it makes it very seamless for the user. And honestly, we've been using it, not only ourselves, but our clients as well, for the last year or so. And I got to tell you, I mean, there's not many tickets. Once it's set up, that's it. It's set up. And the only tickets would be questions about access, or maybe somebody needs more access, something like that. But technically sound, very easy for the users, I find.
Absolutely.
So when you set something like this up, you already mentioned you don't have any on-site Exchange servers anymore, right?
No, zero.
And SaaS applications are in the cloud.
Mhm.
Some kind of federated logon thing exists, right, to authenticate users to all the business apps. And then for your private cloud apps or your on-prem apps, you've got a gateway for that too. So what does the firewall have to do with security these days? Like, are there exposed ports these days? Like,
I mean, you block everything except for like outbound access. So, and then
everything, everything.
Yeah, you just allow the gateway to talk to the firewall and you're set. I mean, that's all you need. So it makes firewall, it makes the firewall configuration very simple. So that's another thing. Like if you have techs who maybe aren't as familiar with how to set up rules and things like that, you don't have to anymore, because once it's set, it's a pretty simple configuration at that point, and you're just working inside the Zero Trust platform now. And you were mentioning about the gateway, so I just want to bring up the ability, like I was saying, customizing these things. Like we have a client who has a VoIP system that's still on site, but they moved all their servers to Azure. So we actually set up 2 gateways, one on site and one in Azure, and we only specify traffic going to the VoIP server so that they have that quality of service. Works great. So it's like any environment you can make this work, and that's what's fantastic about Zero Trust as well. Not only just security, but allowing people to access it from anywhere and still have that quality. It's pretty cool.
So I just want to point out here, and I've been fighting for this for years, to stop relying on external scans to judge people's security. But I can't wait until the external scan is dead. So Eric, I just like when everyone looks like you, right? When all of their practices look like your ideal customer practices, we're gonna kill those external scans, because they're or maybe not kill them, but like not have to pay attention to them, right? Because the reality is nothing should be exposed ever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's that first link reconnaissance. I mean, that's why we're doing those scans, and having something that reduces that attack surface and drops that down, so those openings are gone, and reconnaissance, they move on. I mean, there's no reason to hang around. So yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait for everyone to get there. Should we talk a little more specifically about your implementation, Eric? So you're working with Appgate, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you begin this journey?
So it's fourth quarter 2022, I believe, is when we started. Yeah, with Appgate, and we started with ourselves, and we got great training on it, and it allowed us to really kind of think of scenarios. The one I just mentioned, it was great to be able to kind of set up that environment, which is very unique because a lot of our clients use cloud VoIP services today, but this one happened to use an on-site VoIP server. So we had to think of a way to allow them to still connect to it and remove the need for they used Cisco AnyConnect they don't have to use that anymore at all. So that was fantastic. And yeah, most of our environments really, I had mentioned about 365 is a big part of what we do, and probably any MSP. And so that is one of the main things that we're protecting now, which we just never had that ability before. In conditional access, you could do some things, but with Appgate and conditional access, you could do powerful things. So that combination has been fantastic for us and our clients.
Tell us a little bit about application to the clients. How do you talk about it?
Yeah. So right, you gotta try to talk about it in layman's terms, and I think one of the biggest security functions that I bring up is about that, because our customers have experienced where threat actors have stolen credentials. They'll do it all the time. They create those rules in Outlook, and they'll email blast. These customers, they experience that. And if we could tell them that we have a product that will prevent that entirely, then they're all ears most of the time. So that's a big story that we bring up, especially clients, like financial clients.
Do they ever ask for it? Does anybody ever, or I guess, let me say it differently, because I'm sure it gets asked for or asked about. But what percentage of the time would you say somebody comes to you and says, I've heard of zero trust, do you? Or what's zero trust? Or can you do zero trust for me? Versus, I've got this problem, and then you offer the solution.
Right. I'd say it's still pretty low percentage that they're going to bring it up. I'd say it's probably like around 15%. I've heard it, but most of the time, because of what it can do, we're just bringing it up anytime we talk to current clients.
Let me ask you a different version of the same question, Eric.
Okay.
What about the percentage of times, because I know this is on the insurance forms, right, that they ask for single sign-on, multi-factor authentication everywhere. And some of the applications that are deployed don't support those things.
Right.
How frequently does that happen?
Not that often, not as often as I would like, honestly. They're not.
All right. Well, on the insurance forms, so
right.
They get around to that.
But what's nice if we bring that up, because to me that's a convenience thing too. It's you're reducing your amount of passwords. It's anytime a client hears that, they're loving it, and so that's something we would definitely want to bring up anyway, to really protect as many applications you can behind SAML or SSO is fantastic. So
do you guys do marketing for your organization? And when you do, how do you talk about those types of things? How do you talk about something as complex as zero trust when you're trying to drive somebody into your inbound?
Yeah, we try to keep it simple, and we try to just make sure that they know that it doesn't matter how their environment is shaped, where their employees are working, is that we can protect with this type of service, zero trust service. So that's really how we try to market it, and especially for those that are manufacturing companies or financial or healthcare companies. It's mostly important to those types for obvious reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, what else?
I feel informed. So here's what I learned today. I heard Eric say that he has no firewall ports open at the client site, which is the end of the great firewall unveil sale. And I'm curious how that impacts so for a long time, right? The MSP sale was focused on the firewall sale, right? Mm-hmm. So are you moving away from that? Is that happening?
Yeah, naturally. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really matter what type. It's not, it matters what type of firewall, but it doesn't, when you get down to like the opening ports, it just doesn't matter anymore. I mean, you have this in place, and you just don't need it. So
I
everything is
imagine that
controlled on that portal. So
it's definitely easier to get into a client, right?
It is.
When
right.
they say,
Yeah, we don't have to.
I
rip
just
out
bought a
the firewall.
$15,000 firewall, and I'm not going to switch to your brand, right? You don't have to fight that battle anymore.
No, you don't.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember, Eric, if it was you or somebody else, but we got described almost as a security overlay, and I think that's one of the things that was great is the ease of onboarding new customers has really helped out a lot with their MSP partners, because they can leave the existing security stack and bring us in and deploy us as an overlay on top for security, and it goes quick. It's not a rip and replace. It's been functionally fast for a lot of people, and that's been a strength that we've seen.
Yeah, even remote access is fast. Testing also very easy. You just put as many or as few people as you want in that test group, and nobody else will be affected by this until you're ready.
Correct.
So that's another thing that's really great.
One thing I wanted to compliment you on, Eric, is that early on you said these tools are great, and you specifically pointed out if configured properly. And I think that that's a really, really important, important piece of detail, right? Because it's one thing to have a hammer. It's another thing to know how to use a hammer and to have a situation you need to use the hammer, right? And I thought that was a valuable call out, and I wanted to give you kudos on that.
Yeah, so important, because you could think that you're protecting yourself completely, and you may not be. I mean, like, for example, in conditional access, you can select what OSs you're protecting. Well, if you're selecting Windows, what if somebody wants to, a threat actor tries to access from Linux or even a mobile OS, then they can, because you didn't set up that conditional access policy correctly. So I'd say the key there is to make sure that you get a pen test done after you set up everything, because there may be something you just accidentally missed. And so that it's not zero trust won't really help if you don't set it up properly.
That's more stuff you love, Matt. Pen test after.
I love what he just said there. Test after you finish securing the network to see what you might have missed or what mistake you made. Not test before you've deployed any security, because somehow that's going to be a security plan.
Yeah.
And Eric, you just said that naturally. I usually have to shove that down people's throats. So. That's great.
Well, I'm going to tell one story, and then we'll do our what we learned, and Mark will talk a little bit about Appgate, and then everybody will have a happy Friday. We talked about VPNs and the challenge of somebody's using it for the first time. I wanted to bring up so longtime viewers know I used to own some Domino's franchises, and if you didn't, now you do. And early on in my career, I worked for the corporation where I was given a VPN, and I supervised a number of locations, and I had to go through that experience. And somebody said, I can't remember who said it on the call, but somebody said, and the training's not great on how people are going to use it. And I remember getting it, trying to set it up, and then saying fuck it and not touching it for 2.5 years until it was like, I'm about to go own my own stores and I got to figure out how to do that. And then I had to call corporate tech support, and granted, most other people on the call, I'm sure, are very knowledgeable in the space, but for me, the end user, right, that was a nightmare, so stressful. So anyway, I wanted to share my little crybaby story.
Well,
about that.
it's worth noting your average help desk engineer who has to field a lot of calls, Zach, may really understand how to do that, but they are also it's 1/3 password resets, 1/3 I dropped my laptop or phone in the toilet and don't want to own up to it, and 1/3 I can't get on the VPN. So
yeah, okay.
Maybe we could say goodbye to one of those thirds.
That's fair. I've definitely been two of the three of those. So I'll let you I'll let you guess. But does everybody want to do a? Go ahead, Matt, please.
Well, phones are waterproof now, right?
I actually a couple of days ago I was in there and I had my AirPods case and all of a sudden it got really dicey there for a little bit, but made it happen.
I don't know if I'd stick that back in my ear.
We did. No goal. We saved it. Does everybody want to do a little zero trust? This is what I think. This is my last thought on zero trust before we highlight some value around Appgate.
I'll tell you what I learned. I learned that zero trust is not early adopter land anymore. This is the way we do business now. So I actually didn't realize we were there because I've just spent the last few years pushing the zero trust, being the zero trust chief cheerleader, and I'm hearing like Eric's finished, right? He's on to his next challenge. So I can't wait for everyone else that's watching to catch up.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I learned that it can really replace firewalls. Sorry, mine's quick, so I figured it's no more firewalls is what I learned. Go ahead.
Yeah, no more complex firewalls anyway. So that's huge. And I think it's when zero trust, which you mentioned about 5 years ago, is when it really started coming out, and it was just another kind of hot topic at that time to me. And I didn't really know it, and I didn't really know what it was all about, but over the last year working with Appgate, I just learned so much about it with these guys. And now I understand how valuable it truly is. And I think it's going to be around it's basically going to be the main player in our security stack. So it's huge.
Robert?
Mm-hmm.
So
the thing that I thought, something I found amazing, we didn't talk today, but it ties into what we're talking about. And what you just said, principle of least privilege was first mentioned in April of 1973. So that's 50 years ago that we've been talking about principle of least privilege. And it's taken us this long to get platforms together that work in zero trust and work effectively and efficiently. That's been one that's been mind-boggling for me. But a lot of it is really out of what reducing those firewalls and those costs and automation has just been huge wins for the IT community itself, because we've been pushed to the limits for about the last 20 years and lightening the load. And these kind of stories out of Eric and other people that we work with, and hearing the improvement of the IT life is what I would call it, has been sound without sacrificing security. So that's my view.
You're super right, Rob. Like we almost never hear, "Hey, this security concept has gone away," or this IT task has gone away. Usually, just more on top.
It's not
right?
easy. Yeah, it's usually not simpler.
I used to once a week I used to synchronize 14,000 lines of firewall code between two data centers for replication, and that was just 9 years ago. And this product, I would have loved it back then.
Did that ever screw
really
up, Rob?
Yeah, when I went on vacation, and I was never allowed to go on vacation again. But yeah, it happens. It happens.
Awesome. Well, Mark, tell us everything, man. Give us the goods.
Yeah,
Tell you everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Give us the quick pitch on why is Appgate like such a premier solution right now in the service provider space? Because I know that there's Microsoft's got their conditional access stuff, but there's not a lot of solutions on the private cloud side, right? Like public SaaS cloud has been sexy for a few years, right? What are you guys doing? It's so special.
Eric, if you don't mind, I'm going to kick that right back to you, and that you're a big Microsoft shop.
Yeah.
But you've selected Appgate to complement your Microsoft environment. So let's hear the MSP perspective on that, and then I'll close it out and tell you guys how you can engage with us and get started.
Yeah, I think first of all, training and the help documentation for Appgate is superior. You can really find a lot on your own. So and the ability to customize. I mentioned that before. We can basically protect any environment with Appgate. I'm trying to think of a tool that we've used where we could use it at any one of our client environments. And I'm sure, I mean, like antivirus products, sure, but this tool it is agnostic. It's truly agnostic. So I think the combination of everything, the support there has been great too. It's just very easy to roll out. It's easy to design. It can be hard, but once you understand how to use it, then you can really run with it. And
would you say though, Eric, that it addressed maybe some shortcomings with Microsoft conditional access?
Oh yeah,
Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you set up conditional access yourself, like as is, without any complement of Appgate, you could potentially block too much. It could be it could be catastrophic for your users, really, if you just use it as is. And if you don't set it up like that, then you're just not blocking enough. So, yeah, for sure, it's you don't even have to worry about trusted locations. Because you just have the gateway in your conditional access location. That's it. So otherwise, you don't include your office, don't include any of that, and it just it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, so to just address Eric's point from a moment ago, he mentioned agnostic. We've been around for, I think, Robert, you said 17 plus years.
17,
yeah. We've got a product that's very capable, very full featured. We work with every platform you can imagine out there, operating system, et cetera. We've got customers, enterprise customers with wide varying environments. And so what Robert and I have been doing is taking all these capabilities and trying to simplify that experience as we bring it to MSPs. And him and I have learned a lot in the last 2 years that we've been doing this. So I think feedback from Eric and others will support my comments in saying that I think we've got a good engagement plan. We've got a good program to help MSPs get started in this space. We're very white glove in terms of helping MSPs get onboarded, let you kick the tires first, with the software, test it in your environment, make sure it's a fit before you make any purchasing decisions. And again, in that process, we're very hands-on to help you through that. So Zach, I don't see how to drop my email in the chat, but maybe if you can, mark.enderhees@appgate.com. And happy to take you through a bit more information about our offer and our program, see if it might be a fit for you.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we will make sure to get that added to the comments. We've got Lizbeth, if you could do that so that everybody viewing can see, that would be great. Guys, this was an awesome conversation. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you for taking time out of your Friday afternoon to join us. We are going to be wrapping up here. So thank you for joining the MSP Cyber Roundtable. If you're new to the Roundtable, make sure to check out our educational YouTube library where you can learn about all sorts of things from zero trust to cyber insurance to, well, a ton about compliance. Next week, we're going to be talking about mission critical contingency planning with Dawn Sizer, who's the CEO of Third Element Consulting. And is a leader in the tech degenerates. That's going to be an awesome conversation. She is great. Gentlemen, you guys are great. This was also an awesome conversation. And have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great one.
See ya.